Hello, hello, hello. I'm really excited today to do this live stream. This is a topic that I've been really excited about for a little while. Um, what does Elon see? We got my friend Optimus here, but what does Elon see? What is it that's going on that makes Elon excited about what's happening? That Elon, if you did miss the news, Elon bought about $1 billion worth of Tesla stock about 2 or 3 days ago. I think 3 or 4 days ago. Think it was September 12th. Sorry. So it's about 6 days ago for me, 5 days ago for you. It's possible he bought more and the stock went crazy. So, just real quick, all these news stories. Elon buys $1 billion worth of Tesla stock. Elon Musk's $1 billion Tesla stock purchase. Elon buys $1 billion. So on. So that's one set of news stories, and just what's happened since then. Well, the stock is up like 20%. We're at $426 a share. I don't know what the stock is doing today. I should check that. Stock's 427 right now, so the stock is continuing to climb. I wouldn't count on the stock going up or down that much, but if you were a Tesla investor and the stock was trading at under $360 a share 5 days ago, and now all of a sudden, or a week ago, now all of a sudden the stock is trading at $426 a share. You're feeling pretty good when you look at your portfolio if you're very heavily invested in Tesla. So that part's exciting. Elon buying the stock on the one hand, his buys, it sounds like a lot of $1 billion. Tesla was $1 trillion company when he bought. So $1 billion is 1/1000th of Tesla's overall outstanding stock. So not that much, right? But not nothing. And so it's possible to some extent that drove up the stock the day he bought because there was a little bit extra demand that day. And it's also that once the market finds out, because there was an SEC disclosure that said it, that makes the market say, hey, the CEO is expressing confidence in the stock. And that is something that tends to cause a stock to rise. But there's this question that I come back to, which is, what does Elon see? He doesn't usually buy Tesla stock. He owns about 15% of the company. He's got a comp package coming up that's probably going to give him another 10% of the company. Why doesn't he need to buy 1/10 of 1% of a company that he already owns 15% of, and he's going to get another 10% of down the road? And my theory, frankly, is he thinks the stock's about to go up a lot. That's my theory, is he knows that there's news coming that is going to drive the stock up much more than what we just saw. I don't know this. This is just my theory. So just to hit you with more news, CNBC, CNN, Bloomberg.com, the New York Times, Yahoo Finance, BBC, the big media hitters all covered this story. This was a big, big story. Now, my friend CERN, my clone, my twin, CERN Basher, I mean, he's the better looking one, but we're both bald guys who cover Tesla stock. I think there's probably more of us than just two, but Elon bought 2.57 million shares of Tesla stock on Friday. Always a good sign when the CEO buys stock on the open market. This is one representation, one way the SEC disclosure looks, showing a lot more. I think there's actually a lot more than what you see there. There's a lot more than I even have in the screenshot. If the Fed was going to cut rates this month, when would that be? I don't think this has anything to do with rate cuts. So I'm gonna go through what I think is going on, and just quick, on the 16th, which is 2 days ago and might not have been disclosed yet, there was a $325 million transaction, which may mean Elon bought more. And I wasn't sure, but the end of Elon can't buy, insiders can't buy in a certain window before the end of the quarter. So on October 2nd, we're going to get news about deliveries and energy storage deployed. That news is coming early October. And one of my theories is that news is going to be particularly good. A lot of people think vehicle deliveries are going to be up. I think Megapack storage deployed is going to be up. I'll talk about that later. But in any event, the purchase on September 12th, I think it was, that was close to the end of the time window when an insider could buy stock. An insider like Elon or member of the board of directors, C-level executives. I'm not sure who else qualifies as an insider. But the end of the first trading day after the 15th. So the 16th is the last day, and this was on the 16th. So it's possible that Elon made another big buy, and that might be disclosed in a day or so. Um, Jimmy Lim says he's confident, he's giving bears a sign they should cut their losses, or he's confident of stocks is still low and can go higher than that. Yeah, well, I think I don't think he's worried about the bears. I think he's my theory on this, and like nobody knows, right? Elon knows, the rest of us don't know. My theory is that Elon sees something coming that we're going to find out in early October after the earnings call in October 21st, 22nd, whenever the earnings call is going to be. There's going to be some news in there that's going to make things go up. Or something's happening in the next month or two. And Elon, whatever reason, maybe he had extra cash. I don't think he would borrow against his Tesla stock or any of his other stock to do this. Maybe he just had some extra cash. And look, when I have extra cash, I buy Tesla stock. Maybe that's what Elon does too. And when he doesn't start up companies. So I have some theories about what is the good news. A lot of people are talking about Model YL. This is not the Model Y. This is the Model YL that started selling in China, and apparently it's selling in fairly high volume. Now I wasn't that impressed. It was like, I don't know, 1,000 a week, which translates to 50,000 units a year. You know, you're hoping for 2 million deliveries over the course of the year. 50,000 is not a needle mover. That's not terrible, but that's not that big of a deal. I think overall sales in China are doing pretty well. There's some rumors that maybe sales in Europe are getting better. I don't know what's happening in America, but Elon has inside knowledge of what's happening with vehicle sales. So there's some possibility, and I believe they're selling the Model YL now in Australia as well. Maybe this thing is going to sell better than expected. That's going to help drive sales. Maybe this brings more people into the showroom and they say, yeah, that's nice, but I think I'll just take a Model Y, or they'll take a Model 3. Maybe they're seeing something. You know, I've actually seen a couple of new Model 3s on the road recently, a couple of new Model Ys on the road recently here in Thailand. That's not enough to judge, but does Elon know something about vehicle deliveries to say the number's going to be even bigger than people think? Like, is it going to be like, I think there's a very popular theory that the sales are really strong in America right now because the tax credit ends at the end of September. So people were thinking about buying a Tesla, like, well, you better get it now because there's a $7,500 tax credit. And if you don't place your order before the end of September, you're screwed. Also, Elon knows what other vehicles are coming that we don't know. So a lot of us speculate, Dave Lee and I think others speculate there will be a Model YS. This is the Model YL. Reasonable guess there will be a Model YS. Not saying there will be, but I predicted this 2 years ago. Roughly, not perfectly, but I roughly predicted that 2 years ago. And I have been predicting a Model YS, which I've said this a bunch of times in case you haven't heard me say it. One of the most popular Chinese EVs that I see is the BYD Atto 3. It has about 1,300 liters of cargo space. The regular Model Y has 2,100 liters of cargo space. This is probably like, I don't know, 2,500. So if they made a smaller Model Y, this is 400 liters bigger, and they went 500 liters smaller, and they got to 1,600 liters or 1,500 liters, 1,600 liters, let's say, that would still be significantly bigger than the BYD Atto 3. It would obviously sell at a higher price point, but that would be a big jump down from the Model Y, and then people who want a Model Y probably wouldn't go down that far. People who want this, you know, that I think it's a good way of segmenting your market and reaching more people. I personally think the Model YS would not sell well in the United States because Americans tend to want larger cars. They don't tend to want some. Model 3 and Model Y are close to the smallest size that most Americans will buy. You know, you get a Corolla, and there's a few other vehicles that sell in some volume that are smaller than Model 3 and Model Y, but not that much. And if you go significantly smaller than Model Y and Model 3, is not a huge market for those cars. But there's a huge market for those cars in Europe. There's a huge market for those cars in Asia. So, and I have my own little theory that they're not going to do a Model YL in the United States. Elon already said, oh, that vehicle's not coming to the United States until the end of 2026. Maybe they're going to do a Model Y XL, which people think I'm joking because Americans are fat. But I'm 6 feet tall and 215 pounds or so, and I fit great in a regular Model Ys. I don't think it's for fat people. It's just we like bigger cars. Americans like bigger cars. So maybe this isn't big enough and they're planning an even bigger Model Y. So if I were Tesla, I probably wouldn't make the Model Y S in the US because I don't think that's going to sell that much volume. You're not going to get the entire market, right? You're not going to displace every Corolla and every, I don't know, Honda HRV or whatever the smaller ones are, CRV or something like that. You're going to get 10% of that market, but that's a small market, so you're not selling that many cars. But if you go Model Y XL and you make it significantly bigger than Model Y, and there's a really solid third row, when you fold the seats down, there's a ton of room. Or maybe there's a cyber SUV coming. I don't think so, but some people think there's a cyber SUV coming. But are they going to announce some? And also cyber SUV, like, well, Cybertruck isn't selling because it's too expensive. How are you going to get cyber SUV costs down? So, but I think a Model Y XL would not cost that much more, would sell in higher volume. So maybe, in addition to knowing or having reasonable knowledge that vehicle deliveries in Q3 are going to be off the charts, right? That would move the needle. That would move the stock up. Knowing that the models that are coming in Q4 would sell in sufficient volume to offset the loss. They're pulling forward a lot of Model Y demand by having this tax credit thing that's going to expire. So what are you going to do in Q4? You're still going to have some deliveries in Q4 as long as people get their orders in that still get the tax credit, but at some point you got to shift to something else. So a Model Y XL would pull a lot. I think you basically shut down the Model Y line for a while and pump out Model Y XLs, and that sells to some other people. Maybe you do Model Y XL in Texas and Model Y S in California. I think there's some possibilities there. But my gut is Model Y S isn't going to sell that well in the US, but it will sell really well in Asia, really well in Europe. That's my opinion. So that could be coming. New vehicle deliveries in Q3 and new vehicles, new models coming in Q4. I think that's a big deal. I know Elon has talked about the shorts getting burned. I don't know about bears. He talks about shorts. Epic demo by year end. Well, he also, I think I'm going to cover this later. He's said some very optimistic things in the last week or so. The value of their vehicles is driven up in the future due to profitability from being on the Robotaxi. Would this not be the last point where everyone's FOMO's into purchasing a vehicle? I don't think we're close to that yet. I think we are. I think sometime next year, second half of next year, Tesla may stop selling Teslas to consumers, at least in the US, because every vehicle produced goes into the Robotaxi fleet. I'm not confident that's going to happen, but it could happen. William says, please, any comment on silver in Tesla supply chain? I have not heard anything about silver in the Tesla supply chain. I don't know how much silver Tesla uses. Whenever there's a supply chain issue, Tesla maneuvers around supply chain issues faster than anybody else. Matthew Hurgis says Model YS wouldn't sell well in the US, but they need to be an option so the starting price can look lower and then people would just go for the XL. Well, I suppose the theory is they offer the Model YS, and your point being the low price gets people to come in. And then maybe a lot of people don't buy it, but they look over at the Model Y and say, oh, this is only 5,000 more. Or look at the Model 3 and that's only 3,000 more, whatever. Maybe that pulls some more people into the Tesla stores and they buy more. I haven't heard any issues with supply chain with silver and copper, William. I don't know what you're hearing, but I haven't heard that. And no, I don't think they're going to do anything on the Tesla Model S, Model X platform. I think the manufacturing cost of Model S and Model X is too high. I think Roadster might come by the end of the year. That could be a possibility, but I don't think Roadster doesn't drive sales. It just drives excitement, which doesn't. It's not bad to drive excitement. Another thing that I think this is probably my big candidate, one of my biggest candidates for what Elon thinks is going to drive the stock. So Megapack, they had a Megapack event where they announced the Mega Block, which is like 4 Megapacks, and the Megapack is going to go from 4 megawatt hours to 5 megawatt hours, and they're going to put 4 of them together and manufacture in such a way that it's easy to deliver with 4 units instead of 1 unit. And this will increase the ability to serve particularly utility level installations, which is probably a large chunk of what they sell. In the course of the presentation, someone said, and I heard this, I was going to find the clip for you guys, but someone said that they have 30 gigawatt hours that has been deployed that has not been accounted for as deployed yet. So they've been doing about 10 gigawatt hours a quarter. And maybe what Elon knows is they're going to recognize an extra 10 gigawatt hours this quarter, right? So what we expect is that Lathrop and Shanghai together, now both fully ramped, should be delivering 20 gigawatt hours of megapacks a quarter. So, I mean, it's conceivable that they're going to go hit 20 gigawatt hours or more in Q3. I don't know. I think we're going to see a significant jump in Megapack. And I think Megapack at 10 gigawatt hours, the energy revenue is something like $3 billion. So if you double energy storage, maybe you get an extra $3 billion in revenue for the quarter. And I think margins are pretty good on Megapack, so that would be a pretty big boost. And I don't think any of the analysts are counting on that. So that could be an outsized result that drives numbers much higher than people are expecting for Q3. And the expectation would be that's likely to continue in Q4. And we do have Houston is coming online sometime probably next year with Mega Block and the new Megapack 3. And that's going to have a 50 gigawatt hour capacity. People are talking about that like, okay, so Houston will have a 50 gigawatt hour capacity and Shanghai and Lathrop will have 40 gigawatt hour capacity. No. Obviously, Shanghai and Lathrop will convert over to making Megapack 3 and Mega Block, and they will each have 50 gigawatt hour capacity as well. Right? So you're going to have 150 gigawatt hours of capacity, which is almost 40 gigawatt hours a quarter. So the potential for Tesla to go from 10 gigawatt hours a quarter to 30 gigawatt hours a quarter within 6 months to a year seems very strong. Sevilla asks, new low-cost model launch on October 1st. I wouldn't be surprised if they launch it before the end of the quarter. Once they have all their orders, they want to get all the orders in by the end of the quarter because that when the tax credit expires. But yeah, October 1st, early October. Maybe they won't do it exactly on October 1st, but it seems likely they're going to announce something in early October to spur sales for Q4. Any thoughts on a $600 leap for a June 2027 contract? I probably have one of those. I'm a big fan of leaps, but I can't recommend that for other people. I have my whole Roth IRA is all mostly January 2027 options, call options with I think one of them's in June. Not one option, but one of my orders is in June. My whole theory on Roth IRA is if I'm going to have large gains in an account, I want them in the tax-free account. I think that makes sense to everybody, right? I have been doing Roth IRA conversions from my IRA account, which is taxable, and I pay taxes when I do this, into my Roth IRA account, and then on the Roth IRA account, I've been buying. I think I'm done, but I've been buying long calls, 2-year long calls. Price target. I don't do price targets. I do think we're going to see a jump. I think there's a good chance we're going to see the stock over 500 soon. It depends on what happens this quarter. But why is Elon doing what he's doing? He saw something. Another possibility about what's driving Elon is the Robotaxi process is going maybe better than expected. It's hard for us to know what that means exactly, but maybe there's some really good news. Yeah, I'm hoping for 1,000. Yeah, I'd love $1,000 a share by the end of the year. Sure, we all would. I think that that's a Brian Wong theory from Next Big Future, but I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would have to be some pretty special stuff would happen. But if the Robotaxi network is kicking and we start to see more vehicles, and I think there's a chance they pull the safety monitors out before the end of the year. But it's just, we're pretty confident they're going to expand to Nevada soon. Fair chance we're going to see Florida soon, Arizona soon. I think there's talk about robotaxis in New York City. So as Tesla grows the robotaxi network, at some point you'd think that Wall Street's going to notice this, right? Paul Costa says, I wonder if Elon has another $1 billion to dump into Tesla. We don't know. I mean, like I said, there was a dark money trade. Where is it? There was a dark pool trade for $324 million, $325 million on September 16th. And if Elon did that, that wouldn't have been disclosed yet, but it might be coming soon. So these are some of the things. And then, of course, there's Optimus. Sorry. Maybe some things are going better with Optimus. I don't see Any news from Optimus likely to drive the stock higher by the end of this year? I don't think anything's happening with Optimus that's going to change. No one's going to. There's no revenue stream coming from Optimus. There's no. I don't think there's anything like that. There's one rumor that came out that I think is nuts. Andy Onion says at $1,000 a share, I would retire and buy Thailand. I don't think you're going to buy Thailand, but okay. Um, so yeah, if Robotaxi grows, if they pull out the safety monitors, if we see other good news with Robotaxi, maybe that and then the other big one, I'm going to show you this one. Version 14, FSD version 14 is coming. If you look, August 21, Elon said Tesla Autopilot version 14 is next month. Well, that's this month. So there's 2 weeks left, and maybe version 14. And I think there's been rumors that version 14 is shipping to employees, that some employees have version 14 on their cars. Elon says version 14 will be better than human for sure. I don't know if it will be 10x, maybe 2 to 3x. V15 has a shot at 10x. So we now know there's a V15 in the loop. There's a V15 in the pipeline. There are so many rare situations in real life that even V14, while capable of being much safer than the average human driver, will take a few months to debug post-release. So, we're going to see version 14 come out and be deployed on some cars, but it will take a few months to debug post-release. So that suggests that we're not going to see version 14 really going full scale until the end of the year or early next year. But maybe something good happened and they're more confident with version 14 than we thought. Ramesh says, I've been driving a 2022 Model Y the last 2 weeks. Car is great, but the ride comfort is not as good as my 2013 Caddy. Are the new Model Ys better? The new Model 3 and the new Model Y have an improved suspension that supposedly the ride is better. My recollection of my brother's 2021 Model 3 was it was really good ride. My Model Y, my 2025 Model Y that we got less than 6 months ago, ride is fantastic. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to answer that more than to say it's great, but it's not like I've been riding around in a lot of Model Ys to compare it to. And if you hit really rough roads, it still can be a little rough. And Cadillacs are engineered to have a very soft ride, but maybe not be that great in terms of performance. So you're always making some kind of trade-off there. 14 forces, what about FSD settlements? It does seem Tesla has a real exposure here. Won't that possibly hurt the stock's potential? So a lot of noise is made about lawsuits from Tesla FSD. And my personal opinion as a retired personal injury lawyer is that this is like a whole lot of talk by people who don't know what they're talking about. Yes, there was a big verdict recently. It's probably going to be knocked down by the judge. I don't think we've heard what the judge has done with that yet. After the judge knocks it down, it might get knocked down and again on appeal. Maybe it'll be settled somewhere along the way. What are there, like 10, 20 lawsuits like this out there? And some of them will settle and some of them won't. Tesla's won a lot of the lawsuits already. So how many of the lawsuits that are left will Tesla win and how many will they lose? Is this going to be $1 billion in damages? No way. All of them together will be less than $1 billion. It's like a footnote. But it gets bad headlines, so that has an effect. Yeah, Cadillac, but Cadillac is just, they're talking about Cadillac, the ride on a Cadillac. Cadillacs are engineered to be soft rides, with the exception of like a couple of sport versions, the Cadillac V something or whatever. Most Cadillacs are engineered for soft ride, not for high performance. So Tesla is balancing more towards performance than towards soft ride. I think Cybercab might end up having a softer ride and less performance. Okay, so I wanted to move on to, I had one of my moments. Elon had posted, "You'll thank me later." Many people speculated after Elon bought the stock that this was before he bought the stock purchase was revealed. Many people speculated that "You'll thank me later" post was about buying the stock and we would thank him for buying the stock. And I responded, this is not about buying the stock. This is about SpaceX. I'll explain why in a minute. And Elon actually replied to me and said, correct. And I'll explain what it ended up happening. But if you follow SpaceX like a nerd like I do, you know that the drone ships that the rocket boosters land on are named names sort of like this. Of course, I still love you. Just read the instructions. Those names come from a series of novels called the Culture series, science fiction novels set in, maybe it's this galaxy, I don't know, but it's a spacefaring civilization called the Culture, and the ships have funny names, like You'll Thank Me Later. And that is, in fact, the name of one of the ships in the Culture series. It's not a particularly prominent ship, but it's a ship that is a name. And SpaceX names its drone ships after that. So it turns out this isn't a drone ship, but Elon calls it, it's a water ship, as opposed to a spaceship that will transport Starship from Texas to Florida. So it's not, I had speculated that it would be a ship that would have a launch tower on it or two launch towers on it. I think that's something that SpaceX may do in the future, is have a ship that can move that has launch towers on it so they can launch offshore effectively. And that might be the best way to design a ship that can move, not necessarily fast, but a ship that can move reasonably well and put launch towers on it that can catch rockets and then the volume of launches. But anyway, that's not what it is. It's a ship that is going to carry Starship and Super Heavy horizontally, not standing up, from Texas to Florida to be launched from Canaveral, and apparently that's coming fairly soon. Um, Matthew says the Model Y doesn't have an air suspension, and most Cadillacs have an air suspension, and that's why the ride is not as soft. Okay, so covered that. Shareholder meeting is coming. I think it's in November. What does that say? Well, the shareholder meeting is coming. They created an image for it. Elon reposted that image. He said it's going to be really exciting. I'm not sure what he means. So maybe something special is going to happen at that meeting, and maybe that's an indication. Maybe he expects something to happen then that will drive the stock up. Maybe it's Optimus related. Maybe they're going to show Gen 3 Optimus in full. Maybe manufacturing of Gen 3 Optimus will have started. He made some other comments about Optimus, I think, are coming. And also Tesla AI, FSD. FSD Supervisor is now available in 6 countries. So it's Australia, New Zealand, China, US, Canada, and maybe Mexico. I think that's those 6. I don't remember if maybe it was the UK and not Mexico. I don't remember. But FSD Supervisor is available in 6 countries now. That's a positive sign. And so maybe, I don't think we're going to see a lot more FSD countries in the near future. I'd love to see it in Thailand. Please, 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 please. Yes, Sea Dragon. I was thinking about Sea Dragon 2.14.4. Sea Dragon is an old idea for a rocket that actually technically launches from under the water and comes up out of the water. I don't remember what the advantage of that was. It was like a really large rocket. Okay. Now, there was a rumor that many people fell for, and I did not. I'm going to be proud of this and say I did not fall for this. But Tesla-chan, who's an account that I like, fell for it and retracted it later. But he pointed out there's this, I don't even know it's a real company, Farm Agra. I never heard of them before. And then some other company, Green something or other, that they're working with. And they claimed they had a letter of intent with Tesla to buy 10,000 Optimus robots to work in their pharmaceutical factories. And I'm like, nah, I never heard of this company. This sounds fake, blah, blah, blah. And I posted, this looks dubious. I don't think this is reliable. I never heard of these companies before. And Elon responded and said it was fake. So, obviously, if there was an order for 10,000 Optimus robots that was legit, that would be a pretty positive thing. But, it's just nonsense. Matthew Hurd just says, we can only hope the call quality is brutal. The call quality? Maybe they'll improve their telecom. No. I think he's talking about some other telecom. Well, let's see what the stock is. Let's just check it on the stock. Stock is at 428.76, up 0.7% on the day. Yay. I don't normally track Tesla stock like this, but I'm a little excited. Because for those who don't know, I'm a very, very heavily, I'm basically an all-in Tesla investor. And I have options which go up, when the test stock goes up 2x, my stock options, when the stock goes up 5%, my options go up like 25%. So when I see the stock goes up, I get happy. I try not to follow it because I don't, when it goes down, then I would get unhappy, right? So I try not to follow too closely. Jackie Boy says, do you think Optimus 3 will have human-like hearing for extra environmental awareness, the same as Mother Nature designed most animals on Earth? I'm sure that Optimus will hear. I don't know what they're doing about hearing yet. I don't know why they wouldn't have very high-quality hearing. Oh, you are griping about the shareholder meeting telecom. So shareholder meeting telecom is different. Your earnings call telecom is terrible. The shareholder thing is not an earnings call. That's like a presentation and it's like a live video and it's probably live on X. I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. So anyway, this was not true. This story was not true. Sorry, Optimist, you're not going to this company. But it was kind of funny, and it was funny to me how many people just desperate for positive news bought it. Um, there's this video. Unfortunately, you can't see it. There's a robot. I didn't do a good screenshot. There's a humanoid robot, maybe from China, and the guy's like fighting it, and the robot sort of falls down but gets right back up. And Elon responded, Optimus is twice the weight of that robot and almost impossible to knock over. I'm not sure why that matters, but it was interesting. And I think Elon is very, very positive about Optimus. Um, this was another piece of news that I thought not related to what Elon sees that drives the stock, but something that's really cool. Somebody had said something about, what's Elon up to, or is Elon working? And Elon says, Daddy is very much home, because I think it was like, where's Daddy? He said, burning the midnight oil with Optimus Engineering on Friday night, then red eye overnight to Austin, arriving 5 a.m. Optimus Engineering, I believe, is in California. Wake up to have lunch with kids, spend all Saturday afternoon in deep technical reviews for the Tesla AI5 chip design. I just made a video about AI6, but Tesla AI5 chip is coming next year, I believe. Probably not the end of this year, probably sometime next year. We're going to start seeing it in volume. AI6 chip, probably end of 2027 or 2028, sometime in 2028. But AI5 will be in Cybercab at some point, and other vehicles, and in Optimus as well. Fly to Colossus 2 on Monday to walk the whole. Colossus 2 is the data center for XAI. To walk the whole data center floor, review transformers and power production. Excellent progress. Depart midnight. So Colossus 2 is targeted to be a 1 gigawatt data center, which is crazy when you think about it. Then up to 12 hours of back-to-back meetings across all Tesla departments, but particular focus on AI autopilot. AI autopilot means FSD and AI. Optimus production plans and vehicle production delivery. So they're thinking about how to produce Optimus, and they're looking at vehicle production delivery. Maybe, they really want to get vehicles delivered at the end of the quarter to get as many deliveries as possible to boost numbers. I don't know. I'm not sure. And, maybe they're talking about which vehicles they're going to produce. Loosely related, Boring Company is making a lot of progress, and somebody said it would be great to put trains in that. And Elon says, I love trains, but the future is individualized mass transit with autonomous electric vehicles. I wonder what company makes a lot of autonomous electric vehicles that are perfectly engineered for Boring Company tunnels. Maybe Tesla. Taking you precisely to your destination, tunnels are needed to address the fundamental choke points in cities. You can't have 3D buildings, expect a 2D transport system to be effective. Multiple layers of tunnels enable transport to be 3D too. Fastest way to travel long distances, city center to city center, short of new physics, is cars and pods in vacuum tunnels. So Elon is still excited about Boring Company. Boring Company is making really good progress. They are close to no humans in the tunnel, and I think like they basically not stopping. 0 people in the tunnel, and I think like continuous mining. They call it continuous mining. I didn't know they called it mining. But if they can operate the tunnel boring machines continuously and they don't have humans in the tunnel, they can move faster. And you may get to the point where all of a sudden we see a much greater volume of Boring Company tunnels, and Boring Company tunnel systems will use Tesla cars. I don't think that's going to be a big impact on Tesla in the short term, but it could be a very big impact on Tesla in the long term. Jackie Boy says, will Optimus be able to locate sounds like we can from the way sounds are attenuated by our ear canals? I don't know how important that will be for. I think the early versions of Optimus will be doing simple tasks. Probably won't be that dependent on really sophisticated hearing. My guess would be that they would have very good hearing, but that kind of specific nature of the hearing, I don't know that that's on their radar screen, and it's certainly not something they've talked about. Matthew says, I'm a data center professional, would love to work for an Elon company, been trying to get hired for a while. They get so many good resumes, though, huh? I applied for a job with XAI, sort of like somebody who helps train the Grok models or something like that. It's a remote job, so I could do it from Thailand, and it's pretty good pay, like $60 an hour, which is good in America, but it's insanely good in Thailand. I could have done it part time, but I failed the test. There was a test and I failed it. So say la vie. William says, do we assume that Optimus is being used in factories and already developing skill sets? I don't believe Optimus is being used meaningfully in factories yet. Developing skill sets, yes, it's probably developing skill sets. Is it possible that traditional mining companies might use boring tech for cheaper mining? I don't believe that's the case. I don't think mining it works the way the tunneling machines work. That the mines, you have to follow where the minerals are, and it doesn't follow a simple path like a tunnel boring machine goes. People have talked about that before, and as far as I know, that doesn't really work. So this is about Colossus, but it relates to Tesla, and I think this is actually another big deal that something may be coming. Don't know that we're going to hear about it this year, but I'm fairly convinced something is coming. So XAI now has 460 megawatts of natural gas turbines installed and either operating or under construction. This includes blah blah blah. Turbines in Mississippi located right across from Colossus 2. There was an issue where Tennessee wouldn't give them the permits to put more energy generation in, or natural gas power plants. So they're right on the Mississippi border. So they found a spot in Mississippi right across the border, and they put their natural gas power plants in Mississippi. And Tennessee doing that may mean that Tesla decides, or Elon's companies decide, okay, we're not going to expand in Tennessee if they're not going to be favorable. And look, Mississippi's right here, so they'll start expanding in Mississippi instead. But Elon said this is still a small fry at 1 gigawatt. For serious power in the 100 gigawatt continuous range, 1/5 of the United States average power consumption, it probably needs to be solar battery powered. At 1 terawatt plus, solar battery is the only realistic option. So Elon is talking about they're about to put online within, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, maybe quicker. They're about to put online Colossus 2, which is going to be the largest AI data center, maybe the largest data center ever. Running at 1 gigawatt. That's a lot of energy. But Elon's talking about going to the 100 gigawatt range and maybe going to a terawatt. And there was some jokes about that as well with some other account. And I have an opinion that in order to get to that kind of scale of beyond 1 gigawatt, at some point we're going to need, and he's talked about solar. He specifically said we need solar. Solar battery is the only realistic option. Well, where's the solar going to come from? I can't think of anyone else who's going to deploy solar at the scale that's necessary. So my theory is Elon is planning to deploy solar and batteries at an absurdly massive scale. If you're going to get to, like, if you wanted to do 1 gigawatt of solar, I was talking about this with Grok, be like 6,000 acres. Now, Tesla happens to have, Elon's companies together happen to have about 6,000 acres of land in Texas near Austin, near Austin, between Giga Texas and Bastrop and other land that they have. They have about 6,000 acres of land. So you could put 6,000 acres of panels or close to it, and you could get to your 1 gigawatt in Texas. And I think Nashville is expensive, but Mississippi is not. So Elon may have acquired land in Mississippi and may be planning to deploy 1 gigawatt of panels in Mississippi in order to feed these data centers or the next round of data centers. But my theory is at some point, Elon's going to disclose, hey, we bought a crap ton of land here, and we're going to deploy 10 gigawatts of panels, 50 gigawatts, 100 gigawatts of panels, and we're putting a data center here. That may be coming. That's a theory, and deploying megapacks to go along with it. So I think that if they're going to announce at let's say they announce at the shareholder meeting, this is our plan to scale solar. Are they going to buy Chinese panels? Do they have plans to manufacture solar panels sorry, Tesla assembles solar panels from Chinese solar cells. A panel has a bunch of cells in it, and China makes all the cells, basically. They make them at very low cost. They're very competitive. So does Elon have a plan to start making cells in really high volume? I think that could be something. Model 2 or many cheaper cars coming in October, November. So I would not say, we don't call it Model 2. Model Y S is the most likely guess, considering that they named the larger Model Y the Model Y L. They make the current stuff in New York. I believe it's in Buffalo that they assemble solar panels and solar roof using Chinese cells. So does Elon have a plan to manufacture solar cells in the United States or in Mexico or in Canada or something like that? Maybe. Tibor, you just got a reply from Elon to that. I just got a reply from Elon for what? Wait, what? What? Did I just get a reply from Elon? Crack me up. It cracked me up if I got a. What gave that away? Wait, what? Oh, I said I remain firm in my prediction that Elon is planning to deploy solar and batteries at absurdly massive scale, and he laughs and says, "What gave that away?" Let me put this up on screen for people who haven't seen it. I just got another Elon reply, my love. Telling my wife, I just got another Elon reply, so we'll take this out. And apparently, thank you for telling me that. Um, Elon replied to me again. I said I remain firm in my prediction that Elon's planning to deploy solar and batteries at absurdly massive scale. Not sure when, but within 5 years, maybe we start seeing signs within 3 years. And Elon says, "What gave that away?" Sometimes I think I'm an Elon whisperer. Like sometimes I get Elon. I'm just cracking up that this happened. When was this? 9:36. This was 5 minutes ago. Like during the live stream, I get an Elon reply. This is hilarious. So thank you. Who said that? Tibor, thank you. That's very kind of you. John Wise says, Warren, it's crazy. I'm only one person away from Elon as you're getting replies and we're in your chat. Haha. Yeah, that's great. No, it's fun. I thought that was obvious. So when do we find out more about Elon's plan for massively deploying solar at scale? It's probably a Tesla project. If you're going to do gigawatts of solar, it's a lot of money, especially if you're going to do like 10 gigawatts or 100 gigawatts. I think that, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Sorry, you're talking about when you get to the scale of 10 gigawatt hours, 100 gigawatt hours, you're talking about billions and billions of dollars. And there's all this associated things that go along with it that may generate a lot of revenue. The Australian government knew of these mega blocks' simplicity and scaling and greatly simplify the development of affordable housing units if they wanted to form a plan for mass immigration. What does mega block have to do with immigration? What? I have no idea what mega blocks have to do with affordable housing and immigration. So I think Elon is a short-term trader, market timer, eh? I think it's possible that Elon saw an opportunity to take $1 billion and turn it into $2 billion if the stock doubles from his $385 average share purchase price. And the stock doubles and Elon cashes out after the stock shoots up to $700 a share or whatever, if I can dream, and uses that money to fund another startup. Because I have a theory that Elon's going to be involved in another startup. I don't think Elon's done with startups. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy there. But, is it that he just wants in? He sees like it's hard for me to grasp why Elon would buy 1/10 of 1% of a company he owns 15% of that he's going to be getting 10% of later. Like it's not a needle mover. Like, but does he have something else to do with his cash? Did he have free cash? Like, I mean, my half joke is that he's got $1 billion in cash from his revenue from the X platform as his, content creator revenue. It could be that, there's the other joke is that he's got an OnlyFans account or he's running a Twitch stream with his video gaming. How is he getting so much money? I don't know. Where did he get? But, he's got $440 billion in net worth. It's not hard to believe he's got $1 billion lying around somewhere. What regulations exist that would prevent Tesla entering into commercial power generation through solar? So there's a lot. That's a good question, 14.4. The issue that I've seen is, and if you look around, by the way, it's really hard to find a solar farm in the United States that isn't controlled by a utility company. If you want to create a solar farm I think Texas is an exception to this, but in general, if you want to create a solar farm almost anywhere in the US, the utility will not let you do it and they have influence over the government to prevent you from doing it. The exception would be if you were creating a solar farm for your own use. So if you have a data center that's going to use a lot of energy and you create a solar farm that's serving your data center, it's not connecting to the grid. That might be an exception that gets you past the utility company's power to regulate and prevent you from doing it. My personal example of that was we never ended up doing it, but we were going to put solar on the roof of our house in Florida. And if you want to do more than 10 kilowatts, then it's like, oh, that's a whole problem. We don't do more than 10 kilowatts. And you have to justify it and you have to show your energy usage and blah, 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 blah. And you just have to jump through they make it really hard. And you would think, like, because my whole theory was, look, I got a roof. I could fit 20 kilowatts on my roof. Once I've started the project, the extra cost of putting an extra 10 kilowatts on the roof is small. So let's put as much kilowatts on the roof as we can, and we'll sell whatever excess we generate to the grid, or we'll find some use for excess electricity. We'll just leave our air conditioning on longer, right? But they don't like that. The utilities don't want you to generate excess electricity. It's perverse. American regulation of electricity generation and solar is perverse. U.S. government making solar almost untenable. Yes, the U.S. government is being difficult, not untenable. They're making it difficult. But maybe Elon's planning to build solar cells in the U.S. to get around that. Tesla builds a big solar farm with batteries to power AI data centers and shows the way forward in the U.S. I think not just a big solar farm. I think big solar farms. Like, to generate the scale of solar that we're talking about, it's going to be a lot. Our immigration problem in Australia is primarily pressure on our housing market and therefore development. I get that, but like, what does Megapack have to do with immigration in Australia? You think they build houses like they build megapacks? I didn't get that. John says, I hear it's for voting purposes. No, that doesn't make any sense. Elon's going to win the vote anyway. He wins the vote by 30. 1/10 of 1% of the stock in the company is not going to make a meaningful move in the vote. And he wins 70-30 when he can't vote. Now he can vote. So he just added another 15% in the vote for the plan. So he doesn't need to improve the vote. Maybe Mr. Musk will build solar farms around the country. I think that he will build solar farms, very large solar farms in a few places. Mississippi is one guess. Texas is a very likely guess. Maybe he has some other places in mind. Jackie says in 20 days of mega block installation, power to 400,000 homes can be supplied. Australia only saw 500,000 immigrants in the last 12 months. That's 2% of our population. Oh, you're saying the mega blocks can help provide power to the homes that are needed for the immigrants. Okay. I'm not sure that's really relevant to what we're talking about here. We looked at solar here in Georgia because the IRA credits end in December, but at 11 cents a kilowatt hour, there's no ROI here. The problem with solar for regular people is because the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates high, the financing you would do for most people in order to get the solar on your house, the interest cost ends up making the return on investment take too long. If you are putting solar on your roof because you're worried about hurricanes and you want to have, you want to be independent of the grid when the hurricanes hit, then you're not really as price sensitive. If you're paying cash, you're not as price sensitive. I think you're saying that the electricity is 11 cents a kilowatt hour. Yeah, so I think I'm pretty amazed that your electricity is 11 cents a kilowatt hour. That's cheaper in here in Thailand. But I think typically electricity around the US is 15 cents a kilowatt hour. Some places like California is much higher. So there's a lot of benefit in some places. Mark says the stock is up $3.50 a share. Now let's see what the stock. We'll do a stock update. Over 430. 431.69, of course. 431.69, up $5 a share. The market cap is up to 1.34 trillion. Very exciting. Is Elon's Tesla buy a tax play to recoup cash if he power plays Tesla to 8x equals 8 billion? I don't think he's worried about taxes, but if you buy stock and then you sell it later and you have capital gains tax rates are fairly low. If you die and your kids inherit it, then you skip over the capital gains. Not sure what the theory would be. 14 forces one judge voting will suspend the vote. The same judge will not intervene because the next vote is in Texas, not in Delaware. So Delaware judges have no say over what happens with the next compensation package vote. The Tesla shareholder meeting will be under Texas law and not under, and they moved to Texas for a reason because they're confident they will have more freedom to do what they want to do in Texas than they do in Delaware. Matthew says the bigger story is the wood fire pizza oven thread. That's funny. Um, somebody complained that there wasn't enough good food around the XXAI headquarters in San Francisco. So Elon said, we'll put in a wood-fired pizza oven. Got wood. I've heard that the power companies have limitations. Yeah, shouldn't it really be an electric pizza oven? I've heard that the power companies have limitations on residential solar because transformers on the grid have a limit in the amount of energy that can be backfed to the grid. Oh no, the utility companies make excuses like, "Oh, our transformers can't handle that." Do you really believe that? That's why we can't have you feed an extra 10 kilowatts of solar back into our terawatt grid. Come on. Um, so the stock goes up when Warren is live. So the rule is when you that's right. I need to be live every day. Not going to happen. Sorry, can't help you out that with that. UK electricity is 35 cents a kilowatt hour daylight robbery. I think California's even more. They might not unveil until late October, so the rest of Model Y deliveries can be fulfilled. All right, let's do one last check. I don't think there'll be a big change here, but Tesla stock at 431.69 again? Really? It didn't change? 430.76. Okay. So I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. The bright spots are, look, I think there's certain things that are obvious. We can expect that we're going to see some positive news about Megapack probably this quarter, maybe next quarter. We can expect to see maybe there's gonna be some cybercab news. Maybe we're gonna learn, Model Y L deliveries were better than expected, although we've kind of heard that. Um, maybe something happening with version 14, FSD, Robotaxi. There's a lot of potential good news in these places, and I think a lot of that could translate to the Tesla stock going up a lot. And if Tesla stock goes up, we're at $430 a share right now. Are we heading for $500 a share soon? Maybe. Um, Matthew says, I'm willing to breathe a bit more CO2 for good pizza myself. Ha. Do I have a streaming schedule? John asks if I have a streaming schedule. I try to stream every Sunday at 9 p.m. my time in Thailand, which is, I think, 10 a.m. US East Coast and 7 a.m. US West Coast. Um, I don't have a schedule, but in my dreams, I try to do 2 live streams a week in addition to the Sunday live stream. I've been very busy with my personal life, and related to my personal life, we're starting up a cafe and stuff. I got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of travel going on. I'm in Bangkok right now instead of my home in Krabi, Thailand. Series on Thailand, which is loosely related. It's not really related to my regular live streams, but I just do them on my channel because I like doing it. Matthew says Megapack is heavy and so are its profits. I think it will. Okay, I don't know if that's meant to be metaphorical or I don't know. Okay. So anyway, I think we're seeing a lot of great news. Great to see stock is up today. Great to see that Elon replied to me today. 17 minutes ago, Elon replied to me again. What? Are we bugging? I think we're bugging. All right, I'll have to say goodbye, everybody. Thanks, everybody.